Hey guys and gals, welcome back to another edition of Andrew-Unfiltered. This episode, I want to talk about ADHD. It used to be ADD, but the term ADD was shelved prior to 1994. Now the condition is just called ADHD. You have other terms such as ADHD without hyperactivity, ADHD inattentive type, and inattentive ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD visiting my therapist with the VA. I've had episodes of I wasn't able to concentrate at work, focus on meetings. I lost interest within the first 3 to 4 minutes, and people are like, "Well, that's just common." Well, no, I totally lost interest and totally ignored what was saying. Sorry, guys. So I would have to ask whomever was there to give me some notes. But I was diagnosed with ADHD. It could have been a cumulative of, TBI, being banged on the head a couple of times, well, more than a couple of times. PTSD, because PTSD does cause memory issues and a lot of what ADHD covers. But they diagnosed me with ADHD and prescribed me some medication that I take, I think 2 pills a day. It's a little blue pill. The blue pill makes me go back to my life. Not the red pill, but the blue pill. But I can say that, first of all, I was never a person to rely on medication. I always believed, a person is the way they are and there's no changing it. Until my son was actually diagnosed with ADHD. Before the age of 6, he was bouncing off the walls, running at 190 miles an hour. And I always assumed, he's a boy. He's hyperactive. He's a boy. I was the same way. My mother never said anything about it. So I just assumed it was, an overreactive boy. But then we started noticing a lot of compulsory things he would do. He would have these tics. He would start licking his fingers. He would start doing some weird things. So we had him take him to the doctor to screen for ADHD, and he had ADHD. And we were weary of putting him on medication until it got to the point where, I'm not saying we couldn't control him, but we would take him to Taekwondo, we would take him to these other activities, and people started noticing the same things. So we put him on some medication, and it works great. It's like he's a whole new kid, but not saying that's bad or good, but sometimes I finally realized sometimes people need medication for support. So that was me going to the doctor, talking about, okay, why am I non-attentive to when it comes to certain things? Like I can focus programming, like I can read code like the Matrix. And I when I put my mind to something, I can actually do it. And it was just like, okay, when I'm at work, I have a hard time focusing, but when I'm actually doing, a hobby of programming mobile applications, I can read that stuff like it's going out of style, and I have no problem. I think there was one day I was creating an iPad app. I spent 26 hours just sitting there coding, forgetting what day it was, forgetting what to eat,
One
and I had a cup of
eternity
water
later.
or a bottle of water. But that consumed me and I enjoyed it until I figured out, oh crap, it's morning time and I haven't slept. So I went to the VA probably about a year ago, talked to my psychiatrist, and I said, hey, I know you put me on anxiety medication and it really helps. It calms the panic attacks. It calms a lot of my nerves for when it comes to things that I don't know. Because, when I was in the Marine Corps, retired E7 gunnery sergeant, when I would talk to people, I got nervous. Like I talked to this person every day, but I got nervous about talking to them. Same way with my job now is, I talk to my boss. I've had beers with my boss, but I get nervous. Like I forget what I needed to say, and it's just panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. So she's prescribed me some medication. I was like, great. I've been on it for about 3 years. I enjoy it, and I can say that, I don't believe in medication is the end all be all. There are resources that kind of like want you to step into, counseling, try to lower your medication intake. But I've tried that. And the more and more I was without it, the more and more I felt the anxiety ramping up, like it was just sitting there building, building, building. When I stopped taking the medication, it just blew up. So I haven't stopped taking it. But back to ADHD. So they diagnosed me with ADHD and prescribed these little blue pills that have worked magic on my life. I'm not saying that, ADHD, being diagnosed with ADHD is going to prevent you from getting a job, because those are protected levels of mental health, or patient doctor stuff that they're not going to dig into. Going into the job that I had now, nobody ever asked if I had mental issues. They always ask you live in a stable home. Do what's your credit, blah, blah, blah. But never did they say, oh, you have PTSD, we can't hire you. None of that. So if you're reading this, if you're listening to this, watching this, please understand, if you've got mental health issues, there is nothing any organization or corporate America is going to say, hey, tell me about your mental health. That's a big no-no. That's some HR level stuff there. But back to ADHD. So I forgot. I keep forgetting things. One episode I talked about memory loss that contributes to this. I would forget to turn the hose off, and I had a infinity pool because all the water levels were rising. I would forget what I was doing, or my wife would say, "Hey, do this, and it didn't click on. It didn't click to me that maybe there was some other underlying issue that I had. Was struggling with my attention. It was all about focus. It's just not always recognized. People say, "Oh, he's just a daydreamer." No, there's a real mental illness here, and ADHD is that mental illness that I found that I had, and I needed to take care of it. So again, prescription drugs. The doctors prescribed me. My attention is like 180. I am now able to focus at work. I'm now able to focus on meetings. I'm actually able to live my life to the fullest just due to the fact of being diagnosed with ADHD. It's not a hindrance, trust me. I take 3 pills a day for anxiety and ADHD, and they're very tiny. It's not like I take a horse pill or a cup of pills. I only take 3 pills a day, and these 3 pills have worked magic on my life. So again, with that, my story, I have anxiety and ADHD. That is my mental illness that prevents me from concentrating, paying attention, actually acknowledging the fact that I have this issue is a step for me in making myself available to others to understand that these diagnoses are not going to prevent you from moving forward in corporate America, moving forward with your life. They actually do help. With that, I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you following me, even though I do look like Paddington Bear, but I appreciate the thumbs up, the views, and the support. And I'm going to continue my journey with my mental health, and I'm going to bring it straight to you. Thank you.